the Home Pros Radio Show. Brought to you by Prime Lending. Home loans made simple. Welcome to the Home Pros Radio Show, the premier resource for the well-informed homeowner. With over 30 years of combined home inspection and renovation experience, your hosts, Tommy Donovan and Shane Hips, help you stay on top of your home improvement and home maintenance needs. Visit homeprosradio.com to access the trusted product and service providers that are a part of our Home Pros network. Find the Home Pros Radio Show on Facebook and Twitter for regular show updates and additional information on the topics covered on our show.
We want to get into some of the homeowner issues that many homeowners these days around the United States are facing. And it's water everywhere.
Yes.
Thanks to hurricane season. Mm-hmm. It was almost dead on with the anniversary of Katrina that Ida came in and hit New Orleans. All kinds of flooding going on there. People are having to respond to that. Just coming into the studio today, we've had a couple huge rainstorms. These bands that are the outer perimeter of these hurricane storms have been passing over us. We get it's crazy. It's like intense rain and then sunshine.
Yeah.
And then intense rain and sunshine. It's kind of interesting. And with that comes flash floods. And one of the things that we figured would be helpful to share is, if you're an unfortunate a homeowner is unfortunate enough to experience a flood, how do you respond? Because in and of itself, it's traumatic.
Yes.
But also, once a flood happens, the clock is ticking. And your ability to recover in a quick fashion has everything to do with your response.
Yeah,
right?
the quicker you make a move, the better your chance of saving whatever you can. Mm-hmm. Because water sits in there, and I got a feeling we're going to get into it. From what you said at the end of the last segment, water and a lot other things.
Yes.
Set in there, and then you have this bacteria growing, and this mold growing, and this just nastiness. Mm-hmm. So the quicker you can make some kind of move, get it aired out, get it get the water source stopped if you can, and then get it aired out and do whatever you can do. The restoration companies are going to be bringing in the purifiers, the air scrubbers, and all this stuff to pull all these particles and all this stuff out, and that is if they have power. But you think in some of these places, after it hits, there's no power, there's no cell service, there's no nothing. Uh-huh. So, I mean, really, they can't. There's only so much. They really can't do anything. They can't.
Well, that brings us into another safety topic that I consider covering is generators.
Yes.
How to properly use generators. Because one of the things that happens in these types of storms is we also have, unfortunately, we have folks who are getting hurt or even potentially killed by improper use of power generators.
Yeah, and we had that a lot last year with the cold weather, the ice storms, and all, because people that weren't used to getting cold weather like that just weren't aware that if you put a generator in your garage with the garage closed, the carbon monoxide that's actually coming off of that. It's generators. They do need to be used correctly. They do need to be outside. Obviously, they don't need to sit down in the water. If you got flooding going on, so you got to have it elevated somewhere. And your cords that come off of it that are feeding your house, they don't need to be going through the water either.
And that kind of gets into what we have here as far as the first thing to consider when responding to a flood is the safety of everything. Turn off power, if at all possible. Turn off your power. Safety first. Don't touch any electrical equipment if it's wet or if you're standing in water. Those of us who are inspectors, if we're in a crawl space and there's water and electrical lines going through it, you can forget us going through there.
Right.
That ain't happening. Mm-hmm. At least I hope you guys are out there taking that into consideration.
Hope you don't do that.
Yeah, any underground or downed power lines can also electrically charge the water. So even if you're not near, even if you don't see, if that water's energized, it'll get you if you step in it.
Right.
Which Which is important to keep in mind. Wear protective clothing, safety goggles, rubber gloves, masks, rubber boots, coveralls. There's been a lot of talk about masks, but when you're responding to a flood, masks are extremely important. Respirators are what you want, especially folks who might suffer from asthma or other lung conditions.
Yeah,
because you got mold growing.
And we know kids are going to want to go play in the water too.
Oh yeah.
So keep your kids out of the water if it's a flood. If it's a flood, because you do know what's in the water.
Remember when I forget, it was one of the hurricanes came through maybe 3 years ago, went through Houston, and we had our friend Robert on the show, Robert Bodwin, who lives in Houston, and I never thought about it this way, but he goes, Tommy, you got to realize when you have a flood, it's not just water. It's all of the sewage.
It's everything.
Just like that photo from the field we shared.
Right.
I mean, everything's coming up and spreading everywhere.
So
don't let the kids go play in the water.
If your water levels are that high, that means all the water that was below is now mixed in with all the other water. Mm-hmm. So don't go swimming. Don't say, hey, this is fun. Let's go. And
that's one of the things that they do emphasize in ready.gov is no wading in the flood waters.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it.
Stay away from it.
You got pathogens that cause illness. You have debris floating through the water, chemicals. Think about all those.
Yep.
And also waste.
Yes.
And wildlife that you might not be expecting to be there. So safety first. Mm-hmm. Of course, then the next thing is to remove the water source. Some of us who suffer floods in our homes, it may not be a natural disaster. It may not be a hurricane or a levee break, a dam flood,
a dam break of the dam.
Sometimes we may be suffering from water damage because we've had a pipe burst or we've had something else happen.
Mm-hmm. And, shut the water off.
Stop the source. Mm-hmm. And really, there's not a whole lot of use of getting in there and trying to do anything else other than shutting off power and things like that, until you stop the source.
Right. Yeah, don't worry about you need water for something else, because right now your main thing is to stop the water and fix that problem. Mm-hmm. Once that's repaired, then you can turn your water back on and use it as normal. Else. But until you get that source stopped, everything else needs to be on hold.
Wait, because otherwise you're just. What's the word? I'm trying to think of an analogy. Otherwise, you might be. What's that episode on I Love Lucy where they're doing the chocolate?
Oh,
you can't keep up.
Yes. Oh,
I'm thinking of the dike. What's this? Not the dam. What's the? There's a. Forget it.
The buckets. Let's go with the buckets. Moving buckets, catching the water, moving buckets.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's in business, you're trying to do too many things. And you can't do. I love them. But I mean, that relates pretty well to this because we're talking about water anyway.
Uh-huh. So, remove the water, stop the source, clear any nearby drains. That'll help water drain away, get it out. That'll help get the water out. And if you have to, use a sump pump to help get the water out, but concentrate on the source. Then, once that source is addressed, these are the next things you need to do. That's when you can start focusing on drying things out.
Right.
Like I said, use a sump pump, clear drains, get that water away. Here's the thing to consider. The faster you are at doing this, the better off you're going to be, because when you're dealing with flood damage, mold is the main culprit. And mold can start growing within 24 hours of a water event, and it'll grow fast.
Yes. Once it gets going, it's rolling.
So how can you help air things out? I mentioned sump pumps. Next thing you can do to help out with your house is open up all the windows and doors. Get some air moving through the house.
Yep. If you got fans, turn them on. Get the air moving. I mean, if you got ceiling fans and there's not a problem with you using the power, turn the fans on wide open. If you got a box fan that Grandma uses when she comes over so she can sleep, take it out, blow it across the carpet. Get air moving.
Run your HVAC system so it's circulating air through the house. Get air moving, because that's what's going to help with the humidity. And if you have them, install dehumidifiers. Those are great. So effective.
Oh, yeah.
I find them fascinating how they work. That's another conversation for another day. But, dry everything out. And then at that point, once you're starting to dry things out, the next recommendation on our list is that's when you can contact your insurance company.
Yes.
And, of course, as they say, the sooner the call, the quicker their response. And then the other thing you want to do when you're at this point of the game is start taking photos of everything. Make sure everything's documented so that there's no debate on the amount or scope of the damage that needs to be addressed, things that need to be taken care of. And then once that's done, you can start with the cleanup process. That's the least fun part.
Yeah.
Sorting out all salvageable items, and then building materials. If you have any building materials, drywall, flooring, wood, insulation that has become victim to mold growth and just have been damaged beyond repair, go ahead and start removing it.
Yeah, and by this time, if it's a big enough flood, I mean, you have a restoration company in your house setting up equipment and everything else. Because the quicker they can get there, I mean,
this is the process.
A lot of times that runs right with that contact insurance. I mean, you hear differences of opinion on that. I mean, do you call the insurance company first, or do you call the restoration company? Because the restoration company is going to deal with the insurance company. And I mean, it's one of those. But the quicker you can get something moving there, the better off you're going to be as far as saving some of your valuables. I mean, you think about it, you got valuables that could be in there and whatever else. If they just get wet, it might be okay. If they get saturated and, they can get nasty.
Yeah. So. And, here's another thing to consider, too, since we're on this topic. So many times we hear stories about homeowners who experience a flood or something like this, and they didn't have that particular right. Just because you have home insurance, don't assume they're going to cover you in a flood. Because a lot of times that's an extra rider that you have to add to your insurance policy.
Right.
Thank you for listening to the Home Pros Radio Show. If you have a question for the Home Pros, visit us online at homeprosradio.com, where you can also catch our podcast episodes and learn more about the topics and guests we bring to you each week. The Home Pros Radio Show is made possible by Prime Lending, RIC Home Inspections, Closing Contractor, Radon Recon, and Carolina Heating Service. If you are a trusted service provider in our area and would like to contribute to the show, send us a message through our Contact Us page at homeprosradio.com. Once again, thanks for listening to the Home Pros Radio Show.